Hello and welcome to the Jackson Harris Show. I'm here with Heather Scott. Is that correct? Schultz. Your last name is kind of crazy. And I actually met this lady at the Georgia CIT convention last week. And would you tell me all about yourself?
All right. Well, like you said, you met me at the CTI convention just recently. So you met me doing what I do. I'm a youth motivational speaker. I travel all over the United States talking to young people about leadership, resiliency, um, life issues. I'm also an author. And I also have a part-time nursing job. So I'm an RN. I wear a lot of hats.
And for so I know you were talking about in your speech, like your daughter was like a premier, right? Like, correct?
Yes.
What was that like going through that?
Well, when we tell people that, that, and I think I said that at the conference, it's hard for people to imagine. Let me see if I have it. I do. I do have it. So when I tell people how small she was, it's hard for people to really imagine. So she was born at only 24 and a half weeks. That's like 6 months. So that's crazy early. Most people wouldn't even think she's viable to survive. And so this is how big she was when she was born. You can see that in my hand, how tiny that is. She weighed 1 pound, just over 1 pound. So that was crazy. It was probably one of the most difficult times of my life. You're so much joy to bring a child into this world. My husband and I were thrilled. We knew that I may have some complications because I'm also diabetic, and that makes for a tough pregnancy. And sure enough, I had a very tough pregnancy. But we made it through. She was in the NICU for 4 months. That was also a really tough part of it because I didn't get to go home with the baby, and I had to go visit her during, visiting hours. Couldn't hold her, couldn't touch her for almost the first month. So yes, it was very difficult, but with faith and just resiliency, we made it through. She made it through. And today she's in college. She's a senior in college in nursing school. So that taught me a lot about resiliency and not giving up and being willing to always accept a different plan if there's a different journey you're supposed to be on.
And the reason I was so inspired from your speech at the Georgia CIT was, when you say, like, please stand up if you were like if you were please stand up for all these things, and the first thing you said, I stand up for. I stand up for the first thing you said at that conference.
Yeah, I think the first one I did a series of different things. And I think the first one was stand if you've ever lost a loved one, had your heart broken. And then the other one, a couple of other ones were stand if you or someone you love has ever struggled with mental illness, coped with suicide. Stand if you're from a broken home. Stand if you've ever been bullied, teased, or felt rejected. I think those are some of the ones that I said that night. Wasn't it amazing though? The entire room was standing by the end. Wasn't that amazing, Jackson?
It
Just
was,
all those people.
yeah, I was like literally. So what happened was I was literally in the back, and it was so hot in the back. It was like 85 degrees in the back there.
Oh, I didn't know that. That must have been miserable.
It was miserable, and I was sitting there, and it's like before you started speaking, I was like, "We're eating the food." It's like this don't taste right. This chicken don't taste right to me, and it was a little crazy, and all these officers came by, and like usually, it was a pretty fun experience. But here's the thing: we didn't even stay for that party at all. We went to the what's it called, the bowling alley, and the lodge, and all that. Um,
Oh, you mean after the evening, you didn't go to
yeah,
the dance and all of that?
yeah, we didn't go to that. We skipped it out.
Oh, okay.
It was a little bit. I didn't really like it. Um, usually, so I know I talked to most people. I have done. If you didn't know, you know what WSB is.
Yes.
Yeah, I interviewed Lynn Burns from WSB at one point. Um, usually you are not offer that correct. Now, would you tell me what book you have wrote for this
Yes.
offering?
Sure. First off, earlier in my career, I was the co-author to a few books or contributing author to a few books. And then a few years ago, I decided to write my own book. It's called Live Extraordinary. I'm in my office, so I got a copy. So, got a copy right here. So it's called Live Extraordinary, and it is every chapter is just a different life lesson that I've been through. So one of those chapters is the birth of my daughter, Liberty. For those of you out there, we named her Liberty. So her birth story is one of the chapters. There's also a chapter on an experience I went through when I was in middle school where I was really bullied. A chapter about my dad and the death of my dad and some things like that. So every chapter is just something that if I had the attention of people, what would I want to share with them? What lesson and about my life I would like to share? So that's the book. It's called Live Extraordinary.
And how old are you when you were diagnosed with diabetes?
I was young. I was a sophomore in high school, so I was 15 years old.
Oh Lordy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then did your daughter have any health complications, with after she was a baby and then she went through her childhood?
Right, right. So when she was born, they kept kind of preparing us for the worst, and I understand why they have to do that. Um, but when they took me back for the emergency C-section, they first told my husband that she wasn't going to survive and that he needed to get some support down to the hospital because by morning, they told my husband that neither of us, me or our child, would make it until morning. So that was kind of that first huge obstacle. Well, she made it, both of us, through the morning. And then 24 hours later, she had a complete brain bleed. And so at that point, they're like, okay, she made it the first 24, but she's not going to survive this. Well, she did. And then she spent, like I said, 4 months in the neonatal, just in this little incubator. And then she was able to come home. She's always been kind of small, but that's not a huge deal because I'm only 5 foot as well. So she's always been small, but they prepared us for a lot of lung issues, complications with her eyes, learning disabilities, things like that. And she never really had any of those. In fact, she was a college athlete. So she's very strong, very healthy. We laugh now, though. Looking back, we do think she probably has a little bit of ADD that showed a little bit in school. And she now being in nursing school, so she's self-diagnosing herself now. And so I think she has a little bit of ADD. So, but nothing that we can really contribute to being so early.
Is she what kind of sports does she play at a young age?
Well, she played, I'm going to turn this alarm off. This is just going to get annoying if I don't turn it off. She, as a young kid, like when she was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or so, she wanted to play every single sport. She's just always been very athletic. So she was always that kid that would swing from the swing set, or she did gymnastics and she'd swing from the bars, but as a team sport, she played soccer and she played basketball and she played softball. So when she got about 7 or so, and we could see that she had some definite athletic abilities and different teams were asking her to join them and whatnot, it was kind of between soccer and softball. So we told her she was probably going to have to choose if she wanted to stay on a serious path, if she really loved one more than the other. And she chose softball. So she played softball all through all through her life, and then got recruited and signed to play softball at a school in South Carolina, and did so until her sophomore year. But then she wanted to get real serious with her studies. And sometimes that can be difficult for an athlete because they are so busy and so committed. She decided that she would go ahead and stop playing softball and focus mainly on her academics, and as she was entering nursing school.
Do you know what she's training to be? Like, you know what she's training to be for in
Yes.
nursing school? You know what she's training to be?
Yeah, so she wants to be an RN, which I am as well. And so she wants to be an RN. She wants to work in pediatrics in the ER. So she actually works right now at a children's hospital in the ER, and she's hoping to continue with that job once she graduates and becomes an actual licensed RN.
Do you think, like, we're going to keep going here with it. You know, when you first started speaking to a bunch of teams, what was going through your mind, you speaking to other people about, you know, your story and your, all that? Would you tell me more about that?
Sure. So I've kind of always been that kid that never shied away from the spotlight. I know at family reunions, I was that kid that would make everybody sit down as I did my baton routines or my gymnastics routines for the family. So I've always been kind of that kid that was comfortable being out front. And then when I was in college, I grew up in Michigan. When I was in college, I wanted to major, I did start to major in theater and dance. And I belonged to a performing arts troupe, and we would tour. And one of our tours came through Atlanta, in which kind of got to know some people in Atlanta, and my sister and I both did. And they actually offered both my sister and I jobs to move from Michigan here to Atlanta to start working in their youth department. And it was a really cool position because it was brand new. So my sister and I developed the entire program, and we wanted to kind of stay in the line of using the performing arts to spread a message. And that was great for me because I was a theater person and loved entertainment. And so I recruited a whole bunch of kids, high school kids from the Atlanta area, performers, singers, dancers. And we would go perform at different conferences, do workshops. And I just kept finding myself out front. And then I attended a conference, big conference, and I saw a keynote speaker on stage. Didn't even know what a keynote speaker was, had never even seen one before. But I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I think I want to do that. So I went to my boss at the time and I'm like, can you help me do this? Is there a conference you can help me, get in front of? Well, sure enough, he found a conference for me to speak at. It was my very first conference ever, had never done this before. And lo and behold, it's an audience of about 8,000 people. And I did it and I loved it. I felt so at home, so comfortable. And that's kind of where it all blossomed right there, and decided I wanted to pursue this. So put a lot of time into crafting my message and what I wanted that message to be. What was I passionate about? What did I feel strongly about? So that just kind of transpired into where I am today. And my keynotes are never a script. They're really what I'm going through at that point in my life or what I want to share. So every keynote's rather different, or at least every year or so, it's a new story or new this or that, because it's really about life, and life is always changing. So that's kind of my journey on, how I got to the stage that I'm on today.
And I'm gonna actually right here during this. This is the Thanksgiving special of the show today.
Mhm.
Because Thanksgiving's in 2 days,
Oh, perfect.
and we're getting to the show. It's part. I am a high school student who has his own podcast, show. Who does his weekly? I do weekly shows here on usually Zoom, but it's usually YouTube and Google Podcasts and stuff.
Hmm.
I do podcasts with different people in the job. We actually just recently last week we just started a sports podcast
Oh,
with
nice.
with our White County High School students on behalf of White County High School. I'm also a radio producer for Splash Damage Radio. I literally just got hired probably about 2 days ago for that.
Wow, you're busy. Cheers to you. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I host my own online radio station on Xeno Radio. It's called 90.1 Bob FM, which it plays all kind of music and which I'm at any kind of station. Which
Okay, that's
I do some talk and
impressive.
with talk and other things. Then recently, to get away from my studies, from studying, we have like the Georgia milestones coming up, the big state test.
Mm-hmm.
I not like those at all. And I was thinking maybe I should go to a student conference to upper myself to get better at what I've been doing for the last couple months. And so I attended the fall Readless, Georgia CIT and student conference, and I met you at that student conference. That's how I met you at the student conference. And
Right.
the guy I was sitting
You
with,
came up to me afterwards.
yeah. And after that whole conference, I was thinking maybe I should start learning what I wanted to learn after all this time. So I started learning sign language. I started learning how to do it.
Nice.
And it's a long, confusing trail to go with.
Did you see that we had some people doing sign language down front at the conference?
Yeah. So just to tell you, the guy with the hair, you didn't see it at all. That guy with the hair I was sitting with at one point, he's my first cousin. At one point.
Oh, okay.
He lives in Stevens County. He knows my mother and all that. Which I never knew I had first cousin moms. I never did.
Well, if you ever get rich, they'll start coming out of the woodwork.
Oh Lordy! And like the classes I literally take, the classes I take to do these, like I'm experienced in audio and video and tech and like that. I'm doing the welding video, so I do welding in my school. I'm also doing what's else I'm doing. So I do this Christian. So to get through my beliefs, I do a Christian Catalyst class.
Mm-hmm.
What focuses myself to God, which truly helped a lot in the time I have been, because I standed up when the trauma thing happened. Yeah, I had some trauma back then. I had to overcome it. 2020 was a hard year for everybody.
Yes, it was.
I know 2020 has been a long year for everybody, and we're still in 21, but I had a hard time in 2020 with family problems.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad to see it looks like you came through it okay, though.
Yeah, I did. And I'm happy to be where I'm at today. I'm here doing a podcast with people, a radio station I do, a YouTube channel I do. I host, so I usually donate money. Just recently in October, I donated my blood to the American Red Cross.
Good for you.
And in December, I'll be doing it again. And then
Good for you.
I was in April, I was fully vaccinated from Corona, which
Perfect.
Which I'm happy for, because look, I don't want to get COVID. I don't want to be sick to death, because a lot of kids are getting sick. And now I have to wait for my booster, which is going to be in January if they don't improve it in time. Which that's kind of sad.
Well, the good thing is you're on a great path.
And no, I've done a couple things. I do singing lessons for part time. I do competitions. I do sports. I am a great tennis player. I played tennis in my high
Oh,
school.
you probably enjoyed my tennis story then.
Yes, I did. I played tennis in high school and in middle school. All through my middle school years, I played tennis. When I got to high school, I stopped playing tennis for a year because I got tired of it, and due to COVID and all that, and I stopped
Yeah.
playing it because I don't want to get in contact with people getting corona and all that. So I'm probably going to go back this next year and play tennis again, and go back and do a couple tennis and stuff, and go
Oh,
back and work
good.
out again. And what's the other thing I do? I do this, and then I also host my own YouTube channel.
Right.
It's a great thing I do is I post these podcasts on there, and I get tons of views, and I'm doing a lot of things to help people. At some point, I donate some money to.
Yes, I love that you give back. I mean, kudos to you. Good job. I love that you give
I donate
back.
money to St. Jude at one point.
Great
A
organization.
great organization. I did a fundraiser on Instagram for like I speak to people on Instagram, and I ask them how thankful they are. And recently, I went over probably about $500 sent to St. Jude at one point.
Oh, that's awesome.
And see, I like helping kids with cancer. Cancer is dangerous. Looking through stories about different diseases really helped me figure out what I want to do in my life. At one point, I was on YouTube looking at what is it? So this guy had these two kids. They're recovering from a strep throat, but there's something going on when that strep throat was gone. It's called PANDAS. It's a generic thing, which they can be cured easily with that. And certain cancers and stuff. And now we have this virus, which
Right.
probably not going to go away, but some people won't get vaccinated for it.
Right. Hopefully we'll get it all under control, and
Hopefully.
yeah, that's what the hope is.
So I know I was going to ask you another question about the health thing. What kind of cancer did your dad have?
He had a sarcoma,
Sarcoma?
and sarcoma is a blood or a bone cancer, and his settled into his bone, and it was found first in his upper arm, in his shoulder area, in the bone in there, and then it just grew and grew. It was aggressive. It took his life in about 6 months.
And going through that, you just told me that in 2011, my mother's dad, he died of so he got in a car crash a couple of years back, and stuff. So he died of something in his lungs and all that, and it was back in 2011. That's why I stand up, because I lost someone and stuff. I lost a family member at one point.
Right. Yeah, and the whole point of that exercise, well, it had a few meanings to it. One was to show that we've all experienced loss and trauma in our life. And the other point was to look around and see that this entire room is standing. So we're not alone when it comes to adversity. Hopefully the final point of that exercise was we're still standing. We've been through all these things, and the good news is that we're still standing. We survived it. So the next step is to learn from it as well.
And we're going to, that's pretty much all I have right now. and stuff. That's the end of the podcast. Thank y'all for watching and listening, and I'll see y'all in the next one. See y'all.